Hello and welcome to this edition of Group Talk, the X Series, Going Mobile with XPages. You'll be hearing from Paul Calhoun of GBS and Howard Greenberg and Paul Della-Nebba of TLCC. Without further ado, here's Howard.
Welcome everyone to today's webinar. What we're going to cover in the next very full hour and a half is just try to give you an understanding of the mobile development landscape, and then we're going to focus in on the functionality that's provided in the IBM Upgrade Pack 1 and Extension Library, and that is creating mobile web applications using XPages. So we're going to get into displaying views and documents in mobile devices as we go through the webinar, and we're going to convert a traditional notes application to mobile use. And then we're going to show real quick some advanced mobile techniques that you can add to your applications, as well as discuss the skills that you might need to not only build mobile applications, but to also get into the XPages world for those of you who have not started yet. So some prerequisites to understand what we're going to talk about today. We're assuming that all of you are experienced Notes and Domino developers and know what forms and views are. And some experience with XPages would be helpful too. So this is, definitely something that we're going to dive into the mobile side of XPages and not discuss how to create XPages itself. Just a little word about TLCC and what we do. We have been providing Notes and Domino training to developers, admins, and users since 1997. We have 4 XPages courses currently, including a mobile XPages course. All our courses are self-paced, so you can learn wherever you are, and they are taken using the Notes client. We do provide instructor help, so if you're going through the course and have a question, an instructor is just a click away. And we also can deliver instructor-led courses either online or at your site for customers who want to do a private class. So today's webinar is on the TLCC Mobile XPages Development course. And this is a self-paced course. It would take someone about 2.5 days to go through. So it definitely dives into a lot more material than what we're going to cover in this hour and a half. And we do have a special if you guys are interested in what you learned today and want to take it further. We have a really great price on this course of $449 through the end of the month. You also, if you don't know XPages itself, can get 20% on any of our other courses, so you could, get up to speed with your XPages training before you get into the mobile part. Not going to talk about all this, but this is all the lessons that are in the mobile course. So we have 6 modules of lessons. So there's quite a few lessons that dive into various topics on creating mobile web applications. Okay, our next presenter is Paul Calhoun. Many of you know Paul. He's been talking to the Notes and Domino world at Lotuspheres and many other WUG events for many years, as well as has been an instructor for many years. So Paul is going to talk about the mobile development landscape. Take it away, Paul.
Thanks, Howard. Well, officially, good morning and welcome to the X Series on mobile applications. Howard, are you going to give me control, or? Yeah.
You should have it.
Ooh. Okay.
We see your screen now, Paul.
So, cool. So, all right. So we're going to get in. We're going to visit about the kind of state of technology. When you get in, and you start talking about mobile applications, then there's a lot of choices out there, and then there's a lot of different technologies that you can choose from, and we kind of just want to lay the foundation for the technology that you'll be using and be demonstrating here, and then the ones that are primarily available from the Upgrade Pack and the Extension Library. So we'll talk about native apps, hybrid apps, the different mobile devices and browsers, specifically what's available to you in the Extension Library versus Upgrade Pack 1, differences and considerations between Upgrade Pack and the OpenNTF Extension Library there. So native mobile applications are ones that actually are going to execute on the device. And for those of you who have iPhones, iPads, and Androids, those are the actual devices that you typically get from the iTunes store. They have some kind of store, app store that you can go and you can download the device from. The devices typically work whether you are or are not connected to Wi-Fi or internet, via 3G, 4G, their data network. So it's a device, application on the device that you can take with you. So when you look at those, then the design model or the development model for those are going to be a little bit different than applications that we'll talk about next, which are the ones that are actually going to be available via Wi-Fi or the data network on the browser-based applications. So the primary thing you'd be aware of on native applications is the designer skill set or the developer skill set that's required to create those apps. Specifically, if you're developing something for the iPhone or the iPad, any of the iOS devices, then that code is typically written in Objective-C. And there's some other toolkits out there that will help you actually generate some of this Objective-C code, and we'll talk a little bit about those. But for the most part, it actually requires you to code in the quote-unquote language that those applications are written in. So Objective-C for the iOS, Java for Android, and then again, that's just like deploying a Notes Domino application to a Domino server. It is very, very platform specific. The good news, or the pros, if you will, to the native applications is, like I said, they can typically work offline when data is stored on the device. Access hardware devices, again, like camera and GPS. And you kind of contrast that to a mobile web application. And that's one that's not actually stored on the device, but where you use the device's browser to access the application via an accessible server. So one of the biggest cons, if you will, to the mobile web applications is you have to have network availability. And I say it's a con, but in today's world, that's just not really an issue. I mean, I spent 2 weeks in Australia recently. I travel a lot, and I would say the amount of time that I don't have access to some kind of network, Wi-Fi network, native data network, is probably less than 10%. So we are really getting to the point where we're in kind of a ubiquitously connected, constantly connected world. So having access to the network usually is not an issue. The other benefit to the mobile web applications is the designer skill set required. Is because you're actually developing this application as a native web application, if you will, then the skill sets primarily required are going to be your HTML, JavaScript, CSS, and they're typically then not device dependent. So you can actually develop once for many different target platforms. So you can develop the WebKit application that's going to be available for your BlackBerries, your iOS devices, and your Androids. And so that's really kind of beneficial. The other big benefit to the web-based application is in the previous slide where we talked about native apps, getting your application into the application store is not a trivial process. Getting your application into the Android store is probably a little bit easier, but going in and actually submitting your application through the Apple acceptance process to get your application, even if it's a free application, even if you're not charging anything for it, it still has to go through the complete acceptance process. And that can be very, very time consuming and lots of iterations there. So mobile web applications tend to be a little bit more flexible. You also then have the hybrid model. And the hybrid model is going to use frameworks that are out there like PhoneGap or Titanium. Those are going to be SDKs that allow you to create code in, for example, JavaScript, and then push a button and have it create the native device-specific application code like Objective-C. It's going to then allow you to have a web-based version as well as one that you're maybe sending to the application store for acceptance. So you can have a web application that you've got out there and have available while you're going through the approval process for the native application. Again, these are typically cross-platform compatible. Framework handles all the device differences. So it's still a develop once, kind of deploy anywhere type of solution, and those are out there. And some others that are out there that aren't really listed in the slide here. But then there's also just using native design tools. So there's some toolkits out there, SDKs. One that gets a lot of press today is Sencha Touch. So just using Sencha Touch in combination with HTML5, you can actually then also develop using their mobile interfaces and mobile controls. So there's some definitely some toolkits and frameworks out there that are available to you. The mobile web browser space is typically going to be targeted via the WebKit mobile browsers, and those are the ones that are on your devices. So if you have the iPad, the iPhone, the BlackBerry, or an Android device, then they have all WebKit-based browsers. And what that is simply is a browser that's going to support the rendering of your web application when you code it a particular way. Now, specifically in IBM Lotus Notes Domino, we've had the extension library that's been an OpenNTF project for several years. And in the past probably 18 months, they added a mobile controls piece to that. And that mobile controls piece, along with some additional tooling from OpenNTF and the extension library, kind of grew up, if you will, into what we commonly refer to now as the Upgrade Pack 1. And the biggest difference between the extension library and the Upgrade Pack 1 is the fact that the Upgrade Pack 1 is actually distributed as a supported binary from IBM. So when you go to install Upgrade Pack 1, you actually install it on the server, the designer client, and the Notes client, and it is fully supported software, if you will. So it's not one of those things where it's open source from someplace that you're not really, even though it was all developed by IBM. It's actually officially supported and delivered software. So the requirement for Upgrade Pack 1 though is that you must have an 853 server. And I'll go ahead and throw in here too that it's probably a good idea. Fixed Pack 1 came out 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. It's probably a good idea. It's not required, but it's probably a good idea to have Fixed Pack 1 on your servers, your designer clients, and your clients as well. But applications have to be deployed for those 853 servers, which means you need to have the 853 designer client in order to put these together. So Domino Designer 853 with Upgrade Pack 1. And then, again, the naming references, you're going to hear that called Upgrade Pack 1, Upgrade Pack, Extension Library, Extension Library. So again, kind of comparing and contrasting those two things. The Upgrade Pack 1 is a subset of the original content from the Extension Library. So you'll see that in the Extension Library, there typically is going to be the tools get updated significantly more often. At one point we were getting like weekly updates. They just did within the last 2 weeks another drop, and they hadn't actually had one since January. But what you will see is that there are more tools available in the extension library than there is the actual Upgrade Pack 1. And the reason for that is that they're actually going in and using the extension library, kind of the skunk works, the think tank, developer works kind of environment. They get it out into the developers' hands where they can work with it, play with it, provide feedback to IBM, and then once it's gone through all of the QA and rock-solid testing, then it's going to be available in the upgrade packs. So we currently have the upgrade pack, and so you'll see that there's some things that are in the extension library that didn't make it over to the upgrade pack, if you will. So the core content there, for mobile, pretty much all of the mobile controls made it over. You'll see that the social business toolkit didn't make it over, as well as some of the JDBC stuff. That's really the two primary differences between the extension library and Upgrade Pack 1. But the good news for developers is, if they've been embracing the extension library, they have access to all of the mobile controls. And if they needed the more formal environment of Upgrade Pack 1, that does include all the mobile controls as well for them to be able to produce the mobile applications that they need. So again, the Upgrade Pack 1 officially comes from IBM, fully supported subset of the extension library functionality. You get it off of Partner World or Passport Advantage, where the extension library is still dropped from OpenNTF. So go to OpenNTF And you know, again, it typically is going to be updated a little bit more frequently. So the mobile XPages development requirements, as we mentioned, you need Domino Designer 853, Upgrade Pack 1, and you need that installed. Again, as I mentioned, as a side note, it's probably a good idea now that FixPack 1 is out to go ahead and have FixPack 1 installed as well. And then you need the 853 on the server. When you go and you get Upgrade Pack 1, you'll see that there's a client, a designer, and the Domino server installed. So you need to install it on the Domino server. If you are a designer, you don't have to install both the client and the designer. You only need to install the designer. Okay, so the client is actually just, you know, for the client itself, but that doesn't really affect any of the mobile stuff. So again, the mobile stuff, there's no installer, if you will, for your mobile device. That's actually going to be all done via the browser. When you're going in and doing your development, one of the biggest hurdles is, you know, getting it someplace where you can actually test it. You may or may not always have a designated Domino test server in order to be able to test your code. So we have 4 testing solutions. You can actually use, you know, the actual mobile devices off of a server, the mobile device simulator, desktop browsers, XPages mobile simulator. The actual devices, that's probably the best choice. So that if you've designated a Domino server that is your test server, and it's actually out there and available and, you know, addressable either on the local network via IP address or resolved DNS, then being able to test it on the actual devices is absolutely bottom line the best choice. But we also know that, you know, in traditional kind of Domino design is that we do a lot of stuff in our kind of local designer and then push those changes to the server. And it would be kind of nice to be able to just do kind of incremental you know, testing, if you will, without having to, you know, deploy it to the server. Several of the SDKs have mobile device simulators or emulators in their SDKs. For example, you know, if you were actually developing on an Apple device, then, you know, the tool set that comes with that actually has an iPad and an iPhone simulator built into them. You can use a desktop browser and kind of spoof it using the user agent strings and as well as some designer settings. So if you have, in this particular case, if you have Chrome or if you have Safari, you can actually just go in and say, you know, because they have WebKit browsers and they're based upon WebKit, then you can kind of set your screen size down to the mobile device size and then go in and actually say, okay, how would this look if it was, you know, an iPhone or an iPad? And for example, in Safari itself, you can actually switch inside of its designer tools and say, okay, you know, emulate an iPhone or emulate a iPad, you know, for, you know, size and look and feel, if you will. And finally, we have the mobile simulators that are, you know, allow you to spoof that as well. And this is one of the ones. This is an example. What you're seeing here is the one that's actually, you know, built into the extension library. So you can actually go in and kind of see a mocked-up version of what it would look like. You know, this is actually the screenshots are actually the, you know, the iPhone 3s, but it gives you kind of that look and feel and allows you to go through that. And if you just Google, you know, simulators, iPhone, iPad simulators, there's several of them out there that are, you know, browser-based as well as standalone executables that you can run in your design environment that you can just, you know, point to. You know, the local host designer, the HTTP process running on your designer. The important thing to get out of this conversation is the fact that you don't have to have a server in order to develop the mobile content and test the mobile content. You know, obviously, when you're moving closer to production, that's something you're going to want to do. But for the most part, you can do all of your development locally. And that's one of the great things about all of the TLCC courses is that they don't require a server in order to go through the material. You get to do everything in your local designer client, work through that. So again, that's kind of an added benefit to being able to use the TLCC courses and work through that content. So hopefully that's provided you a lay of the land, if you will, a kind of an overview of where we are. And now I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Paul Della-Nebba, who's going to jump into the specific content. Take it away, Paul.
Okay, thank you, Paul, and good day, everyone. And bear with me while I set myself up. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I'm going to take us through converting a simple application, a simple customer tracking application, and it'll be at a read-only basis, so we'll be able to access the documents from a view and open up the documents. And if you want to follow along, we've made this application available. Some of the demos that I'm going to do, and Howard's going to come back with some advanced demos after my bit here. And you can point your smartphone to www.tlcc.com/demo. If you point your desktop browser to that, you're going to get a page that says you need to point your smartphone to that address, and you can just follow along with some of the things we'll show you. Now, this screen is showing us the requirements for the application where you're going to develop your mobile XPages. And one is that you have the extension library controls available to the application. So obviously you have to have the extension library or the upgrade pack installed on your designer client. And then within the application properties, you need to check off to make the extension library available. The second requirement is in the XSP properties, and those are available through the Package Explorer. You need to specify a prefix for any XPage that is going to use the mobile themes, so the Android themes, the iPhone themes, to properly display in those devices. And what you do is you simply add this line here, XSP theme mobile page prefix, and then specify, whatever the prefix you're going to use for those XPages that are going to display mobile applications. And once you've installed the Extension Library Upgrade Pack, as Paul pointed out, other Paul, you're going to have that mobile control palette available to you. And we'll preview what some of those controls do. Now, this is a nice screen for introducing two of the main controls. The single page application control is the container control for all of the mobile pages within your application. Each mobile page will be in a mobile page control. And what we can see at the top is the actual tag for the single page. Now that's XE, that stands for extension, the XPages extension library, as opposed to XP for your view control. So that's your top level or root control for your XPages. Okay, so within your XPage, you're going to have a single page application control, and then you will have one or several application page controls. One setting that you must make on your single page application control is which of those application pages to open first. And in this case, the view page is being opened first. Okay, a couple of other controls that are available to you. The page heading control is used for creating a heading, and we can see a home heading here. The static line item controls are used for navigation purposes. They provide a static selectable line, and there are also controls available to you to move to another page through those. The rounded list control is really just a presentation container control, and the convention here is that when you're showing data like document data from a domino document, you would show all of that within a rounded list control. And another pair of controls that are available to you are the tab bar control and the tab bar button control, and they're fairly obvious for creating action buttons in your mobile application. Okay, we're going to, first demonstration here is I'm going to go into Designer and create this very simple application, Hello Mobile World. This is showing the architecture and the complete code for that. but basically within an X page we're going to drop in a single page application control, and within that we're going to drop in a mobile page control with just some static text on it. So let's do that. Okay, so here I am in Designer, and I'm working in this application, the Workbench application. And just before I create my Hello World mobile application, I should check to see whether or not my application properties are properly set up. And under the Advanced tab, I can see that my Workbench application here is enabled for the Extension Library or /Upgrade Pack. And another thing that I can check is in the XSP properties for the application. If I view the source for the XSP properties, I can see line 7 here has been added, XSP theme mobile page prefix equals mobile. And I could have called that mobile, M underscore, whatever I like. Point is, any X page that I create with this prefix that starts with mobile will use the mobile themes, for proper rendering in an Android device or an iPhone device or a BlackBerry device. Otherwise, the X page will use, what is set in the XSP theme. Okay, so any X page that doesn't begin with mobile will, in this case, in this Workbench application, use the One UI version 2.1 theme. Okay, so I'm properly enabled at the application level. I'm going to create a new X page, and I must begin with mobile, and we'll just call it mobile hello. And I'm going to go over to the source, and I can see not too much happening here. Right now I just see the root tag for my X page. Okay, XP view, and it's pointing to my core. We have a namespace set up for my core controls at this point in time. So the first thing that I need to do is add in a single page application control. So what I see in my controls palette is I do have my mobile controls in addition to my core controls, my container controls. I also have some extension library controls available to me. And new with 853, if you haven't been playing with it, is the ability to customize your palette and to set up different palettes. So I've set up a specific mobile apps palette with just the controls that I'll use in mobile application development, but I could also switch to my Domino Designer palette, or I could have a different palette that shows all of the controls available to me through the Upgrade Pack. So once again, first thing that I need to do is create that containing control for my application. So I'm going to drag and drop over a single page application control, and I can see it added to the outline. And within that, I'm going to drag in a mobile page control. Okay, and I can see that added to the outline as well. Now, if I switch over to the design editor, I can see my single page application control and my mobile page control. And you can certainly work in the design pane, but I find that for mobile development, it's just a lot more useful to work in combination between the source editor and the all properties view for the particular control. For this application or mobile application page, I want some static text on there. Hello, mobile world. And let me reformat that. And at this point in time, I think I'll just test that out, so I'll save that. And I have an error. And the error indicator indicates that there's a required property, the selected page name, for the single page app control that is not present. So I alluded to this in the slides. For your single page application control, your top level containing control, you need to specify which page to open first. So first thing I need to do is in my mobile page, I need to give it a name. So I'm selecting my mobile page and giving it the name Page 1. And then in my single page application control, this is the property that caused the error. I need to specify which page to open first. Okay, and that is page 1. So now let me try to save this, and my error goes away, and I can preview this. Okay, and I'm previewing this in a Chrome browser, and I can see my Hello Mobile world. Now, Paul alluded to spoofing. So the mobile controls and the themes are enabled for spoofing, and I can specify a platform equals iPhone, and that didn't work. Oh, I see why. Case sensitive. Okay, platform equals iPhone, and I can see what it would look like in an iPhone using the iPhone themes, or BlackBerry, or Android. Okay, using the mobile Android themes. Okay, another thing that I can do is I can open up this mobile simulator. So Paul also alluded to this as a useful testing tool when testing locally. So this came out of the Extension Libraries demos, and we just moved it into our applications and made a couple of modifications to load up any page. So I want to load into this my mobile hello.xsp, and I can see what it looks like in an iPhone, what it looks like spoofed in an Android device, and what it looks like spoofed in a BlackBerry device. So in addition to using those themes to get that proper coloring for the device, I also am constrained within, pretty well, what I would be constrained from the space point of view, if I'm actually testing on the actual device. So very useful way for testing quickly locally. Okay, going to explore some navigation tools that are available to you in mobile development. One is the single line item control, which allows you to specify which page to move to. Another option is in your heading control, your page heading control. You can specify a back button. In this case, the back button was given the label name home, and then a move to location of this page. And another option is to actually add a tab bar and a tab button, and then specify where you want to move to. So let's explore some of those things in Designer. And I'm going to make some changes to my application. I'm going to take out this Hello Mobile World, and in its place, I'm going to add a page heading to my page 1. And in the label for that page heading, I'm just going to call it page 1. Okay, after my heading, I'm going to add some static line item controls. And the label for this is going to be, I don't know, P1 to P2. Going to have to create a page 2. And then I can specify where I want to move to. So let's come back to this. Let me create my second mobile page. So I'm going to add a second mobile page within my single page application control. And this page I'm going to call page 2. And while I'm here, within there, I'm going to add a page heading just to label this as page 2. Okay, one of the things we saw in the diagram is that your heading control also provides some navigation opportunities. So you can provide you can enable a back button. First of all, you need to give it a name. I don't know, home, to go back to the home page for the application, and then where you want to move to, and that's where I can specify page 1. Okay, so I've got some navigation back to page 1 from page 2. So let me return to the design of mobile page 1, and specifically that static line item control that I added. Okay, so I gave it a label, P1 to P2. Now I need to specify where to move to. So now I can specify page 2. And you also have some transition options available to you in mobile development, so I could specify slide, fade, flip. So slide, and I'm going to just put some right text on here to indicate that the transition type is slide. And I'm going to repeat that. So I'll just copy and paste in a couple of static line item controls on this page, and just explore some of the other transition types. Okay, so for this second line item control, I'm going to change the transition type to fade, and the text as well. That shows up on the right. And for this third one, I'm going to change the transition to flip, and the none transition is just immediate. So we won't bother with that one. And I'm going to save that. And I'm going to switch to my browser and refresh my browser. And I can see that mobile hello world has now been replaced with quite a bit more information. I added a heading to my page 1 with the label page 1. I added a number of static line items. This one will slide to page 2, and that's what I'm seeing here, page 2. And I'm seeing in the heading on page 2, in addition to the label page 2, I'm seeing that back button that I programmed to move back to page 1. So we'll try that out. And I can explore some of these other transitions as well. And I can also explore it on the other devices and see how they will show up there. So here is the Android device spoofed for the Android device, so we see the themes and styles that are used on that type of device, and the BlackBerry device as well. So nice rapid application development, rapid mobile application development, where that acronym stands for. Anyway, rapid application development just using this mobile simulator. Okay. Let's explore something a little realer. So here in my notes client, let's take a look at the application that I'm going to convert now. So this is a simple notes application. It's my customer's application. And there's a number of views: the customer by name view, the customer by region view, the customer by type view. So here my customer by name view, and we're a golf golf supplier. We supply manufacture golf clubs and various golf items, and we supply them to golf courses and pro shops and golf stores. So that's why we have these types of customers. When I take a look at the information within these documents, I can see some contact information, phone number, email, and so on. Okay, so very simple application. What I'm going to do is I'm going to convert one view, the customer by name view, into a mobile application. That mobile application will have 2 mobile pages, one for displaying the view and a second for displaying the contents of the document that's selected in the view. Now, just going to return to a couple of slides before I get into that conversion. And this slide introduces a new control. So if you've dabbled in XPage development, and we do have a free demo course that's available to you, our Introduction to XPages course. So that's a free course. Just go to the TLCC site and you can request that. But that'll introduce things like using the view control for displaying a domino view on an XPage. Well, in the extension library / Upgrade Pack 1, another control that's introduced for displaying domino views is the data view control, and that's what we're seeing in this screen. So we're seeing that customer by name view that I just showed you in notes rendered in a data view control. And if you've used the XPage view control, there are some differences here. One is you can expand or collapse a row to show some details. There are controls for showing all of the details or hiding all of the details, expanding all, collapsing all. You can show a single summary column on the left, and you can show additional columns on the right. And you can also add paging for adding more rows as well. So this is just displayed on an XPage in a regular desktop browser. And the point of this next chart is the data view control, which you must use in your mobile XPage development. You cannot use the view control. But you cannot use everything that is available to you in the data view control. So the data view control is for several XPage applications, mobile and non-mobile. If you attempt to use things like row details, they're going to show automatically expanded in your mobile applications. If you have additional rows on the right-hand side, they show underneath. And in mobile development, of course, space is limited, so you really want to think hard about using up some of that vertical space in this case. The show and hide details, they do not work. One thing that does work is the pager control for adding more rows, so that is available. And what this screen is showing us is a data view control that's being used properly in a mobile application. So we have a data view controls, we do have the pager controls, no row details, no extra columns, just basically showing one single summary column. Now the procedure for adding a data view control is you add the data view control to your XPage, you point it to a domino view data source. Probably want to set the rows property because you are dealing with limited space, so the maximum number of rows to show. And you also have to specify which will be your view summary column, which column to display. To add that Show More Rows button, you actually add a link control. That's your standard core link control. And then you specify which pager that is for. You specify, it's for your data view control. And we'll take a look at this in Designer. And we'll do that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my mobile Hello XPage. And I'm going to create a new XPage, but just before I do that, just want to show you the target application in Designer. So here's that customer application, and there are several forms, but the key form is the customer form. Okay, that displays the customer information and the number of views, but the view that we're going to be concentrating on is the customer by name view, which has a customer column. And that's going to be our summary column for our data view control. Okay, so back here in my Workbench application, going to create a new XPage and call that mobile, must be mobile, or prefaced with mobile, customers. Once again, we get a blank XPage, and in the source, not too much excitement. And the first thing that I need to do is add a single page application control. And within that, I'm going to add a mobile page to display my customer by name view. And I need to give that mobile page a name, and we're going to call that my view page. And in my single page application control, the first page to open will be my view page. Now, back in my mobile page for my view page, I'm going to add in a page heading, something that I can test out immediately, and the label for that will simply be customers. And I'm going to save that, and I'm going to preview that. And that's what I'm seeing. And once again, let me drop this into my simulator. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm just seeing that label on my one and only page, my view page. So the next part of this is to show those customers, those golf customers from the customer by name view. So I need to add a data view control. So let me jump back into the designer here. Let me format this. Okay, so within my mobile page, I'm going to add a data view control, and this is in my extension library palette. And here we are, data view. So we'll drag and drop in that. And much like adding, your view control, you're asked to bind that to a domino view. So this is to a domino view, not the current Workbench database, but the other customer application. So let me navigate to that. And specifically, the view that I want is the customer by name view. Okay. Now, one thing that I want to do for my data view control is specify the number of rows to display. So in my properties, my all properties for the data view control, I'm going to specify 9. I know that fits. Another thing I might want to do is, for any documents that are open from here, I may specify open in read mode. And the next thing I need to do is I need to add a summary column. Okay, so I'm adding a summary column, and I'm pointing that to my customer column. Okay, so let me reformat that. And I'm going to save, and let's preview that. So I'll just refresh, and that's working very good. I'm seeing the names from the customer column in my customer by name view. The only thing is that there are more customers available to me, and I need some sort of a more pager. So let's go to that part of the design. Okay, so this part of the design, it's more useful to actually work in the design view, and I see I've lost my facets. I'm actually going to, it's a bit of a quirk here. For those of you who have used or developed in XPages, you know that these green areas are basically areas where you can drop in design elements, and there should be one here next to pager bottom. I'm just going to fix this by closing and then reopening that XPage, and that's what I was looking for. So I'm going to add to this a link control, and I'll give it a name or a label, something like more. And then I'm going to program this with some client-side JavaScript. And one of the simple actions that's available to you through the extension library is add rows to a data iterator. And a data view is a type of data iterator, so that's actually the one that I want. And I need to specify that this is for the data view 1 control. That's the one and only data view that I've added to this XPage. And this is also useful property to specify disabled ID, which is this link's ID, link 1, okay, which basically says when you get to the bottom of the data set, disable this control, hide it. So let's test out that change. So I'm going to save that. Once again, return to my simulator, refresh, and I'm seeing that more link at the bottom. And when I click on that, it shows me the next 9 customers, and I can continue to do that until I get to the end of my data set. And I've arrived at the end of my data set, and I no longer see that more button. Okay. All is well. I want to go on to the next part of the problem, which is when I click on one of these customer documents, I want, or inside the data view, I want to see it on another mobile page, see the content. So I'm going to need to add another mobile page. Okay, first to just a couple of slides here. If you want to display a domino document in a mobile page, the procedure is create a mobile page, give it a page name like document page. Inside of that, add a panel control, and the reason for adding a panel control, and that's one of your core container controls, is panel controls do allow for the attaching of a data source. So we're going to attach to that panel control a domino document data source. And then we're going to drag in some of the fields from that data source to basically create the table of fields and display their values. But also back in the view page, we need to specify that we need to open that document page, that document mobile page, whenever a document is selected in the view control. So that's basically the procedure. So let's try that out in Designer. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just add a couple of comments here. One here that says end of view page, and another one that says start of document page. I guess we didn't need that one. Okay, so within my single page application at the end, after the end of my view page, I'm going to drag in a second mobile page. And in the properties, let's expand this a bit. I'm going to give it the name document page. And also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a page heading. Whoops. And give that the label details. And I'm also going to program the back button. Okay, so we're going to go back. We'll just give it the label back. And where do we want to move to? We want to move to my view page. Okay, so we've got a label on our document page, And we'll move back to the Views page with the back button. Okay, so the next step after the heading is to add in a panel control, and this is one of your core container controls. So we'll just add in a panel, and the only reason we did that was with panels, you can bind them to a data source, and we want to bind this to a Domino document data source. And once again, this is in the Other Customers application, so we'll just navigate to that. There it is. And the form that I want to bind it to is the actual customer form that displays our customer information. Okay, one other thing that I want to do for my mobile, for my document page, for the mobile page, and that is set this property, reset content to true. And this is very important. And that basically says that whenever this page is rendered, reset the content, and that's how you want it to work. Otherwise, the first document that the user opens is always going to display over and over again. Okay, so I've added a panel. I've bound it to a Domino document data source. Let me expand this. This might be a little bit more useful. So what I can do now within this panel is I can add the fields or the controls that are going to show the contents of the fields in that data source. Now, one of the conventions in mobile application design is to show document data or data within a rounded list control. So I'll just add one of those. Basically, it just gives me a white background, but it does adhere to the convention. And then within there, I want to drag over the fields that I want. So from my data palette, I can choose, for my document data source, I can choose which of those fields I want to drag over. I'll just drag over a handful of these. And this is getting large in the source, so let's drop over into Designer and see what we have here. Okay, here's the result of what I've just done. I added a rectangular rounded list control, and within that, I dragged over some fields from my data source, and I get this table with a row for each one of those fields with an appropriate label. And each one of these controls, if I look at the data properties, is bound to the appropriate field in the data source. Okay, so the customer control is bound to the customer field in my document 1 data source, and the phone control is bound to the phone field in my Domino document data source. So I think I'm ready to go. So I'm going to save this and refresh my browser. And of course, I'm missing one piece here. I need to go back to my mobile page for my view page and indicate which mobile page to open when something is selected here. So let me go back to the design of my view page. So here in my outline, just selecting my view page. And actually, it's in the data view within the view page where I specify which X page to open at runtime. And that's going to be my document page. Okay, and let me just go over to the all properties. I'll show you where that was set. Okay, so that's actually within the data view properties, that's actually the page name property. Okay, and once again, an important property to consider is this one here, Open Docs as read-only. That should be set to true for a read-only application like this one. So let me save that and preview. And I get these chevrons, so something has changed here. So now when I click on these at runtime, and we're having a problem here. Destination view not found. Howard or someone, can you chime in? Anyone see my error?
Paul, I think you got to do pound document page.
Well, I shouldn't have to. Oh, you know what? That's not what I called it. Here, let me drop over to the source. Yeah, I think I found it. So the page name for my document page is all lowercase, document page. So that'll do it. Okay, so let's try that. And we'll save it. And refresh. And now let's click on this one, Athens Golf. And I'm seeing the details. So I'm seeing my document page, the label, the back button, you know, those controls for the fields that I dragged over from the data source. They're being displayed in this rounded list control. And the back button goes back to my view page where I can select to open another document. And I'm actually seeing the information for that other document because reset content was set to true for my document page. Okay, so that's it for my bit. I'm going to hand it over to Howard in just a moment, but just wanted to show you one more thing, and that is I'm opening up the lessons view for our mobile XPages course. Oh, wrong one. Oh, I see. Here we are. And just to give you an idea of what we cover in this course, I was focusing on the material in Module 3, how to display domino views and documents in read-only. So in our course, we also go into the create, update, and delete capabilities. So the editing capabilities in Module 4. We cover a number of advanced techniques in Module 5. And you, as of today, we added a new module, Module 6, that we call Optimizing for Mobile Devices. So we talk about a number of techniques, and some of these Howard is going to demonstrate, but a number of techniques that are very, very specific to mobile devices, like touching on a phone number to make a phone call and so on. Okay. Howard, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Let's see. Are you going to share my screen? Or I can do that. Okay, hopefully you're seeing my screen here.
Yeah, seeing that.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, so just to reiterate, www.tlcc.com/demo. You can try this out on your own mobile device. Due to popular demand, I made a last-minute programming change, and if you have a BlackBerry, you can try it. It's not tested, but if it works for you, that's great. If it doesn't, call IBM. So anyway, right now we have the app that Paul built. And if we click on a customer, you'll see that we go into a listing of the customer details, which is what Paul showed you. We've added to this, and this is a pretty simple addition. In the demo, you'll see that there's a link for the phone. And if you try that on the actual device, you'll see that then you can call Atlantic City Golf. I would not suggest that because they probably have no idea what XPages are. But you'll see that that link will start the call, click to call type link, and you can call that phone number. With a similar link, that link we have a TEL in front of it, in front of the phone number. I'll show you that in Designer in a minute. We also have a send email link, and this is just a mail to link that many of you have done in web development. And next to that we have a text message, so we can text message the phone number, and that's just a link that uses SMS in front of it. So let's go look at that in Designer real quick. And so here's my phone link, and I just show this in read mode. So I have the visible property to only show this link in read mode. And in edit mode, I actually hide the place where the users can. In edit mode, I hide the link, and we show the control where users can change the phone number. Now, the link type here is where we're computing the link, and the link is simply the phone number with the string TEL colon in front of it, and that provides the click-to-call type link. In a similar regard, we use the send email, and we have a mail to text in front of that link. So we're getting the email from the document, and we're appending that to mail to colon. And finally, the ability to send a text message. We do the same thing. We get the phone number from the document, and we return SMS colon as a way to get the phone number. Okay, going back to the application, the other feature we have in here is the ability to view the customer's location on a map. So I can click on the View Map button, and that will bring up Google Maps, and that will put a marker at the location for this particular customer. And if we click on that in your mobile device, this isn't going to work in my simulator, but if you click on the marker, you'll get what's called an info window that will show the customer's name. And this is basically all client-side JavaScript with using the Google Maps API. So in terms of the page that we have created on it an HTML div section. And then when this particular page loads, we have a panel that has a on-client load event with client-side JavaScript. And I'm not going to get into all the code. It basically is from the Google Maps API to what's called geocode, or convert that customer address to a latitude, longitude that Google Maps understands for where we want to position the map. And then we add the marker and the info window to it. So we cover that in our course, or you can go look at the Google Maps API to get some more information on that. Had a couple of questions about going into edit mode. Well, actually, before I do that, there was one question on how to kind of, we have this view of, let's say, all our customers, and suppose we have hundreds of customers. So one of the ways we can do this is to use a outline, and we can, in this case, we break our customers down by the region. So when I click on North, I will just see the customers in the North region, or West, I'll see the customers in the West region. So that's one way to improve the user interface and make your application a little more mobile friendly, because it's really hard to scroll through hundreds of customers on a mobile device. Let me find one more where we have an example of edit mode, just to show someone that we can do it. It's basically the same controls Paul used. We're just going to allow provide the navigation capability to let the user switch into edit mode. And I believe this is the one I need. No, maybe not. No. Wasn't planning on showing this, but someone did ask, so I want to dig it up.
I think that's it. 331.
441. I want to where they have the buttons.
That's right.
So I'll preview this in our mobile simulator. Actually, we'll just go through and change our URL. Some people asked about the mobile simulator, and this is basically from the extension library. The XPage in the extension library demonstration database is called mobile_home, and we just change this around to pick up the X page to display in the simulator from the URL, which is a pretty simple change. It's like 2 lines of code. So that's basically where we got this code from. 99% of the work was done by the people who created the extension library. Okay, so we have our customers here, and now we have buttons to go into edit mode, and I can change things. This is the simulator, so we don't necessarily get the same experience like with the keyboard on the screen that we would, let's say in this case, an iPhone device. But the simulator does a pretty good job of giving you a rough idea of how the application is going to look. We could also create a new customer here. And I'll just go to save this. Notice some of these fields are required, so we still can do validation, just like we did in a regular X page. So I'll put in some fields real quick. And I'll save it. And you see that it created my document. It's now in our Domino database. And I can even delete it. Obviously, all your access control list rules still apply. It is still a Domino application, and that's the good news. Okay, so we cover that and more in our course. If you really want to dive into mobile applications, I highly suggest it. So many of you on the call today are probably not only new to mobile XPages, but new to XPages. And so I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about skills. Obviously, I'm using this, talking about skills in this case in terms of our courses, but I think you'll see where you fit in terms of your skills. The first thing you need to do before you get into XPages is to first be a Notes in Domino developer. So that's why we have at the top our Notes in Domino Application Development 1 and 2 courses. Many of you, I am sure, have those skills. In the middle, we have LotusScript and Java courses. Now, the reason those are there, the key reason, is because you should understand the Domino object model. One of the things that XPages has is the ability to access the complete Domino object model. And so if you've written LotusScript or written Java agents in Domino, those classes will be very familiar to you. And knowing how to work with those classes is very important in XPages. Now, the core language of XPages is JavaScript. And so having experience working with the JavaScript language is important. And finally, then we have the 2 XPages courses we have for core XPages, as well as the mobile XPages courses, if you want to get into what we're talking about today. Now, the use of Java, I do have that, and as I said, in the middle before getting into XPages, because I just wanted to illustrate that you need to know the Domino object model. But you can use the actual Java programming language in XPages, and if you follow the world of Domino bloggers, you see a lot of people talk about using Java. And that clearly is something that's a little more advanced and can be very useful. And we are going to be coming out with some Java courses for XPages developers starting early next month for the first course, and followed by the Java 2 course later on in the May-June timeframe. And those would be helpful once you've taken the first XPages course and want to get a little more into using Java in your XPages. Okay, I think we're going to now start answering questions. And before we do, I want to point out that on the slide we have contact information for TLCC and GBS people, for Paul Calhoun and for us. And also to reiterate that we do have a special on the mobile XPages course, as well as 20% off on any other course. And that's through the end of April. And so if you are a GBS customer, you can contact Paul Calhoun at GBS, and he can help you get TLCC courses. Or if you're a TLCC customer, you can order the normal way. Also, I'd like to point out, if we have any IBM employees on the call, you can order TLCC's courses at the Learning at IBM site. That's www.tlcc.com/IBM for those IBM employees. Now, as far as asking questions, we're not going to open up the phone lines. We do have a lot of people on the call today, but there is a questions pane, and in the top left of my slide, you'll see the questions pane, and you can ask a question there, and we will try to answer your questions for about the next 10-15 minutes. So please ask away, and I'll leave that slide up on my screen so you can get that information. A couple common questions before we go through the list is we are going to send out a link to the recording of today's webinar. That will come in a few days, and that will also include a link or the presentation slides as well. Okay, so Paul.
Okay, I have a question from Kiran. Can you please tell me what will be the time estimate for developing a medium complexity application, say a contacts application? Does not take too long. This is quite easy. That should have come out of you know, what I was presenting. The customer's application is a contact application. Really, the question is, you know, is that read-only, or do you want to provide the other CRUD capabilities, the create, update, delete capabilities? For read-only, very quickly, you know, less than a day to develop a mobile application. Now, that assumes that you are an XPage developer, so using or adding to that the use of the mobile controls, very easy to do. We certainly recommend our course, but you'll find it's very easy to do once you have the skills, and that's less than a day's effort.
Okay, Paul, we have a couple quick questions I can respond to. One person asked, where can I get help for the mobile controls in the Upgrade Pack 1? So just to reiterate what Paul Calhoun said, the Upgrade Pack 1 is fully supported by IBM. So you can call IBM if you need help on anything in the Upgrade Pack 1. If you are using the extension library, then you can use the, there is a capability on OpenNTF to participate in a discussion database for the extension library, and many of the developers for the extension library do monitor that. And there's also a way to enter problem reports there as well. There was also another question I saw by Russell Tower, and Russ had mentioned, when will data be replicated back to the server? Everything that we showed is a mobile web application, so it's running on the server. So the data is from the server and created immediately on the server.
Okay, have a question from Atul. Do we provide materials for the XPages certification exam? Certainly that's covered in our curriculum. You know, we've got 4 courses. We'll have 5 courses, you know, within a month when we introduce our Java 1 for XPages course. That exam, the objectives there are covered in our XPages development course and our XPage development 2 course.
Okay, thanks, Paul. There was a question about views with categories and subcategories. The best way to handle the data view control can't handle subcategories, but we found the best way to do it is what I demonstrated earlier, where I had one mobile page with a list of categories, let's say, and then clicking on that would then show either the subcategories or documents in that category. That seems to be the nicest way to do it on a mobile device. You can use categories directly in the data view. Tends to not be as usable, I found, as creating a separate page to handle the displaying of categories.
Okay, I've got a question from Priyank. Are there any tools to transform a Lotus application into a mobile application automatically? Nothing I've seen out there. Certainly our co-host here, GBS, has their transformer tool to transform Notes applications to XPage applications, but to go that next level, I haven't seen that. Although I wonder if GBS is kicking that around. Paul, did you want to add to that? Paul, if you're speaking, we're not hearing you. Okay, he may come in later. Howard, do you have anything else?
Oh, not on that particular topic. I'll just move on to another question. So we had a question about scrollable views, and why don't we have them? I can't answer why IBM didn't do them, but I'm assuming that they're just trying to follow the way the phones typically work, that you scroll them instead of having something scrollable itself. There's another question about code samples. In terms of the demo that we showed, that won't become available. That is available, those techniques we do show and teach in our course. But there are lots of code samples on the extension library. There is the extension library demo database, and they also have a team room and discussion database that have been mobilized that you can get some good ideas from there as well.
Question from Ravi, and this is intriguing because I don't know the answer. So Howard, listen in. Can we do any document locking in the XPage when the document is edited on a mobile device? Document locking extended to a mobile device. Now, I've never tried that. Howard, any ideas on that?
I would think that would work. I haven't tried that specifically, but since you're still using the document and
the data source, yeah, I haven't tried it either. I'm going to agree with Howard. My guess is that would work. That would just transfer. That functionality would transfer over through the Domino document data source. But that's
I think the issue. I think the issue with that would be that even in the web client, forgetting about XPages, that document locking doesn't really have a nice interface. Whereas in the Notes client, we did get the pop-up menu. You can't edit this document because it's used by another user. So it's probably something you would have to try out.
Question from Brad. Do one of the slides give a checklist of what's needed to set up the development environment? Rob, if I can get you to add a link to that extension library, but basically the instructions for installing the extension library and enabling it on your designer client or your Domino server or your Notes client, that comes with the downloaded extension library or Upgrade Pack 1. So right within there, there's effectively a README document with a link to an instructions page on the details on what you need to do to install that on your various platforms, Domino server, designer client, or on your Notes user client.
Okay. There was a question about syncing documents offline, and there is no support for that in the mobile controls. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to go to a third-party tool, either create a native app or somehow create a native offline storage. There also Team Studio has a product that will let you take a XPages application and create a mobile application, and that's not a mobile web application, but that's an actual mobile application that runs locally on the user's device. So if you have the need to do offline, you can check some of the sources Paul mentioned or talk to the people at Team Studio.
I've got a question from Marlon. If you have an application built to run in Notes only and you want to make it, you want to mobilize it, is it ideal to develop the mobile design within that existing application, or should you develop a different database for all of your mobile design elements? And my preference, this is a preference thing, Marlon, but my preference is certainly to take it out of your existing application. Treat your existing applications as XPages calls them, just data sources, and develop a new application, with all of the mobile components. And when you do that, you've got some cross-application sharing that's quite useful. Things like reducing common design groupings into custom controls, or server-side JavaScript libraries or client-side JavaScript libraries that you can use across a broad suite of applications. So that's certainly my preference.
Okay, there was a question by Frank on logging in and using internet passwords. And yes, of course you can require the user to log in. They will be prompted to log in with their username and password. And everything, again, it's a Domino database. All Domino things still apply. That includes the ACL. So one of the things you might want to look at in that case is using a login screen customized for a mobile device. And I think that there's an iNotes mobile login page that you might want to use. I think there's some information on using that on OpenNTF that you might want to search on. Another question by James, can we use icons in the data view? And that does have the capability to specify an icon. So that should work.
Many general questions about, where can I get the presentation slides. This session is being recorded. The presentation slides will be available, and you'll receive an email with links to access those. Also questions about, where can we get the sample databases that were demonstrated here. Those are available in our mobile XPages course, and that is a paid course, but they're all available there, along with, of course, the lessons describing how to implement those techniques. Also questions on where to get the mobile simulator that we've been using. So again, that is available through the extension library demos, so that's freely available there, and we also provide it in our activity databases in our mobile course as well. But you can certainly get the extension libraries demos, and you can fish it out from there.
Okay, there was a question by Vinay about replication conflicts. Again, this is Domino, so you got to follow the good Domino rules and try to make the vast majority of your users be author access and have author fields to control limited access to documents. So it's nothing special, just Domino. Paul?
There's another question from Karan. Does TLCC offer online courses? Yes, we do. We have instructor-led online courses that we run for our XPages courses. Another question there is do we provide the Designer 853 client? We certainly don't provide the client. That's licensed through IBM. But there is the free Domino Designer client, which you can access from IBM as well.
Okay, there was a question by Brian on what client-side JavaScript and CSS is sent to the mobile device. It does use Dojo. It does use themes, which all of that is done by the controls for you, and you can see what it generates using any browser debugger like Firebug or Chrome, and you can see what actually gets generated. Okay, another question was how can we find the tool that will convert native Domino to XPages applications? And that's called GBS. They have the Transformer product that they can provide a service to run your native Domino applications through their tool, and then they hand you some converted XPages ready to go. So please contact GBS if you're interested in that kind of functionality.
Howard, I'm seeing that we're just beyond 12 o'clock, so maybe one more each here. I'm not sure if you got this one. Where can we find code samples outside of the extension library? The snippets that are available at OpenNTF are very good. So there's, in fact, there's a snippets contest that was just recently announced. So every few months, OpenNTF, which is an open source repository and just a community that has a very big XPages following, and a lot of the projects are devoted to XPages, but you'll find a lot of snippets, code snippets available to you free for use and to access.
Okay, I had a question on calendar control for mobile by Dominique, and the Upgrade Pack 1 itself does not have a calendar control. However, if you're using a iOS device, an Apple device, you can set up the edit box control to have a HTML5 type for the date or date time, and then you can use the native calendar controls that are on the iPhone or iPad. And we do show how to do that in our course.
I'm going to take one more question. A question from Lubisha. Does it matter if the database is on a server that's older than version 8.5.3? You know, if that database is just used, you know, as the data source for a mobile application? No. Certainly you need an 8.5.3 server with the Upgrade Pack 1 or extension library installed for the application where you're developing those mobile XPages. But they can be pointing to a data source on an 8.5.2 server or an 8.5.0 server, or, correct me if I'm wrong, Howard, I don't see why they couldn't point to a data source on a prior major release server.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've heard of any limitation because it's basically just accessing the data.
Yeah, so yes, you can certainly have your data sources on a server that is pre-8.5.3.
Okay, we'll do one last question and then we are 5 minutes over. We'll wrap up. Martin asked, can you do type ahead search in a view? And yes, you can. Add a control at the top of your view, of your data view, and set that up to use type ahead by tying that into the data view and the filtering available in a view column. So there actually was someone blogged about a demo on that recently. If you maybe do a Google search, I forget the exact URL. I think it was Paul Withers, but I could be wrong.
And that concludes this edition of Group Talk. Thanks for watching. To engage in conversations with us, visit twitter.com/gbsnows. To stay up to date, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/joingbs. And to watch entertaining and informative videos, visit youtube.com/gbsnows. And don't forget, visit our website and send us an email at gbs.com and info@gbs.com. Thanks again.